This episode of The Acolyte was absolutely brutal. It was about the same length as the last episode, but it didn't feel as short just because I think there was so much packed into it. Like, it had some serious stuff happen in this episode. Just a heads up, I will be talking spoilers. I really like that this episode was the antithesis to Day, which was the previous episode, and this episode is appropriately called Night, which does make sense because most of it happened at night and in the dark, which really just lent itself very nicely to the lightsaber fights and having like just the lightsabers be able to be seen in some shots, which was really cool. I have less nitpicky things about this episode than I have had about previous episodes. I'm going to just kind of talk about what I liked about this episode, some more questions I have, and just kind of my thoughts in general. I watched a Star Wars Explained video. I think it was a live stream from last week's episode, and they talked about the theory that the guy that May was working for was going to be the Sith. Him being revealed in this episode, it makes sense. Like, we've spent enough time with that character. We kind of know that character, even if it was on like it's kind of not like a super deep. We don't know that character super well, but we know of them enough, so it made sense when he was revealed. And I think I would have been frustrated had it been anyone else that we hadn't seen yet. I did think it was funny when he was fighting though. You could like see his arms like out the side, like he just wasn't wearing sleeves. That's just a choice, man. But I did think it was really interesting though, when he took his mask off, he looked way more menacing than he did in like previous episodes that we've seen him in. That's gotta be like his wardrobe and just like his character introduction. Like, he just seemed way more menacing this time, which makes sense. He did just like totally destroy like a ton of Jedi. I audibly gasped when Jackie died. I was not expecting that. Okay, I was expecting some of the Jedi to die because there was like 15 of them, so I was like, they can't all be there. They can't all make it to the end of the episode. And I thought the point of them being there was so that we didn't lose actual main characters, but we lost actual main characters. When Jackie died, I was shocked. And also, was it totally necessary to stab her 3 times? Which, I mean, like, the first time I was like, maybe she can make a comeback. Like, we've seen worse in the Star Wars universe. Like, we've seen people come back from worse. And then she got stabbed 2 more times, and I was like, oh no, she's gone. This is unfortunate. So that was a shock. And then when Yor died, oh my gosh, he like didn't even die with a lightsaber or like nothing. He just got his neck broken. Like, that's gnarly. But I just wasn't expecting that either. Like, especially because he was like the last one who survived. Like, they let him live a little bit longer. He like was injured, but he didn't die. And then it was like super fast and it was like nothing. And I was like, that is intense. When the Sith like force pulled another Jedi onto a lightsaber that was already stabbing another Jedi, like, that was crazy. I really liked the lightsaber choreography in this episode. I feel like it was like the Jedi fought like systematically, but also like flowed at the same time. Like, it feels like what the High Republic Jedi would be fighting like. It felt less acrobatic than the prequels, which I think is a good way to differentiate like the different times that the Jedi existed. And then also I think it just felt more intense. Like, it felt like the characters were really going at it and they really wanted to try to kill the other person, which, you know, was successful for some and not others. I thought Jackie was the coolest character though. Hopefully she gets some kind of like reboot show sometime down the line or something, or maybe hopefully her time in Star Wars is not completely over. And maybe she'll be in a book form or like video game or something, but I was like, dang, they're pulling like a Rogue One situation. Okay, back to the fight choreography, which the fight choreographers were apparently, according to Google, Chris Cohen, Mark Ginther, and Darren Knopp. I really liked that the stakes felt real in this episode. The fighting felt like intense enough where it was like, people are gonna die, and they did, but it just felt like real and like people were fighting for their lives. Also, just to mention, Jackie with the 2 lightsabers, like, that was awesome. Like, Jackie's whole fight, like, they did at least give her a cool fight before she was brutally killed. My question from last week, where did Basil go? He was found. He did not go anywhere. And I think he'll be the reason that we find out, or like that the characters find out that May is actually Osha. Which, okay, let's just talk about the twin situation for a second. I don't know if you know, I'm sure people out there know twins. A lot of people actually know a set of twins. I know a set of twins, and they look similar. I've known Caleb for the past 3 years, and I can tell the difference between Caleb and Andrew, even if it takes me like a second. Like, maybe it'll take me like a minute to be like, oh, that's Caleb, that's Andrew. but they are distinct enough where it's clear who is who. Like, I might, like, just be like, oh, what's up, Caleb? But it's actually Andrew, you know? But then I'm like, oh, sorry, thought you were Caleb. We move on. But it seems like they don't realize that anyone is anyone, and everyone just thinks everyone is who they say they are, which is slightly frustrating. Which, I mean, Basil is kind of onto it, just because he can, like, smell, I think, is what's happening. But also, like, Sol is a Jedi. Like, he should be able to sense who is who, you know? Like, sense the darkness in May, or I don't know. Like, it just feels like something where it'd be like, oh, I can tell who is who. Because that is a normal thing that you can do with a set of twins. That is fine. It does feel like the twins are veering more into, like, Parent Trap situation, where it's like, we trade spots, and we're switching places, and who's gonna notice, and stuff like that. And it's like, what? Like, May has a tattoo on her face. Maybe Sol hasn't spent enough time with Osha recently, and May can just pass off as her sister. I'm not sure. Hopefully that doesn't last, like, long, that no one knows who anyone is. But I do believe that Osha will now become the Acolyte. I think Osha's being set up to become the Acolyte. Overall, I am more pleased with this episode. I feel like the way the episodes have been set up, it's like the first 2 episodes are like setup episodes, the 3rd episode's payoff, 4th episode's a setup, 5th episode's a payoff. With this track record, the 6th episode will probably be more of a setup, and then the 7th and 8th episode will probably be more of a payoff. But I feel like this episode had good momentum. It had good, like, structure. The story structure made sense. I thought it was crazy intense, and it felt like enough had happened in the episode. By the end of it, I was like, okay, like, a lot happened in this episode. I'm fine where it ended. I think the twins, I was kind of expecting May and Osha to be able to become friends at some point, but I think I've just accepted that they both hate each other and will never get along. And I think that's just where that's gonna end. I bet that one of them is still gonna die at the end, and it's gonna be like, now I really don't have my twin, and something like that. Also, we don't get a conclusion on who the Sith was when on the planet that the May and Osha grew up on. So Sol knows him and is familiar and recognizes him. Sol knows him and he's familiar, but, like, we don't get a conclusive ending to how they know each other or what that was from. And so I'm sure we'll get that in future episodes. The lightsaber fights also were just so awesome that I am willing to keep watching. But also, all of the Jedi have died, so there better be, like, a cool Sol and Sith, like, face-off or something, because literally all of the Jedi have died. This is tragic. What did you think of the episode? Did you like it better than the last episode? What do you think about it in terms of the whole series? Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.